next part of this discussion, and as I said, the discussion, since this is the last section of chapter 2, it's not going to require an inordinate amount of time to conclude the chapter, because she said it, basically everything she's had to say up until this point. But what she does nearing the end of the chapter is sort of solidify her definitions. She wants to make sure that her definitions are understood within the context of her objectivist epistemology. And there are more, but these are the 4 that stood out to me. The 4 terms that stood out to me nearing the end of the chapter that she continually revisited and continually attempted to give some substance to were concept, entities, attributes, and awareness. So concept, entities, attributes, and awareness. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at these concepts, right? We're going to look at what she means by concept, what she means by entity, what she means by awareness, what she means by attribute. We know what she means by these things, but she fleshes out just a little bit more. She puts a little bit more body, a little bit more substance on these ideas, and we'll need this articulation in order to understand chapter 3. Chapter 3 is extremely dense. It's not an easy read, and what she's saying is very dense. So we need to make sure that we have a solid foundation in her definitions, and a solid understanding of her definitions in order to make an understanding of where this goes. Okay, so the first is concept. So I just finished discussing concept. The concept of infinity refers to perceptual entities, right? These perceptual entities, in the case of infinity, I arrive at this concept not by looking or pointing ostensibly at the metaphysical reality, because it doesn't exist, but by an infinite duplication of perceptual entities, right? So that the relationship between the concept and the existent world is one in which perceptual entities allow me to arrive at concept formation. This is a quote from Rand, right? The first concepts that we're able to formulate are concepts of entities, right? We have concepts of things, right? So the young child, and I've given this example a number of times in the video, but the young child has a series of balls set before her. A red ball, a big ball, a blue ball, a green ball, so on. Balls made of different materials. And the child identifies that there is a similarity among all of these objects, right? And she might, and I gave this example, right? She might attempt to identify that representation pictorially, right? A pictorial representation, this very rudimentary attempt to represent the perceptual entities in the world. But as she gets older and as she learns more, she recognizes that her pictorial representation of a circle to represent that ball is incomplete. The pictorial representation is lacking, it's limited. The knowledge that I have and the awareness that I have requires a fuller definition in order for me to fully represent that perceptual thing there, that entity. Insofar as I recognize that that entity needs further description, now I have to bring that entity into my mode of cognition. It can't just be sort of the given, the background framework with which my mind operates, right? So that entities function on a given level, right? So that when we talk about concepts, right, entities function on this given level. We can move from the idea of entities to something more concrete, right? We can now classify and identify particular things, right? We can identify, and I've discussed this before, I-D-E-N-T-I. We can identify, right? And the identification, the naming of objects is not a given, right? The fact that the young girl points to and pulls out the red ball from all the other balls means that she's identified this particular thing as different from the other. And the way that we incorporate identification, we've gone through this, is through differentiation and integration. Right, through the process of differentiation and integration. And then finally we arrive at sort of unit formation and concept unit and concept formation. So we go from entities to identity to concept formation, right? So that the idea of concepts, if you sort of trace this syllogism back, has its basis in the given, right? But the barrage of sense data that confronts my mental faculty is too much, so that I can't identify everything around me. What I do is selectively pick out things to identify, and in picking out the things to identify, now we can move to a fuller understanding of what these things are, the significance that they have, the meaning that they have, which he discusses quite a bit in chapter 3. But with respect to the idea of concepts, we see then, for Rand, that we begin this very rudimentary epistemological account of concept formation by recognizing that our first concepts are rooted in perceptual entities. That's all she's saying. Hopefully that was clear.